my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
Come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite.
Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians.
Governments don't live together, people live together. From governments, you don't always get a fair word or a fair fight. Well, I've come here to give you either one, or get either one from you.
That's totally taken out of context.
Well, not really.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up,
T-minus 1 minute.
live out the true meaning of its creed.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
T-minus 50 seconds.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr.
Every dollar released from taxation
T-minus 40 seconds.
that is spent or invested will help create a new job.
Chivalry is dead, and women killed it.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines.
T-minus 20 seconds.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground and in the streets.
10, 9,
We shall fight
8,
in the hills.
6,
We shall never surrender!
3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome to the Problem Solver Politics, the live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host. I can't hear myself, Cody. Are we on?
No, we're on. It's a you problem. I'll see if I can figure it out.
Dang it. All right. I am your host, Cardinellis.
Your headphones are unplugged.
Oh, that's why. Okay. With Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today, take a wild guess what's getting talked about all over the world, what's on everything and everybody's minds. We are coming at you live from none other than the California quarantine zone. Because it looks like Trump wants to keep us here. You know. Cody, tell us what's going on, man. I got to plug in my headphones.
First of all, I saw a couple people in the chat. Shout out to, looks like Rufio and both Barbara. I believe the hats card and you sent them out was the first batch today. Either way, I'll be sending you guys emails in the yesterday. So I'll be sending you guys emails in the next 24 hours. Everyone's whose hats went out, and then we'll send out more tomorrow with the tracking numbers. You'll be able to track them. Normally, once they get out, it takes a couple days. So it just took us a couple days to get everything together and make sure we're able to get with our shipping people and ship stuff out properly.
We had about 5 people that didn't have.
Yeah. We were waiting for a couple addresses to get all of them out at once. Apologize for that, but we did just go through them all yesterday. We sent out most of them yesterday. A few were left. So again, look for an email in the next day or so, and I'll just let you. I'll get back to you with your tracking number so you have a better idea of when it will be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is.
Well, also let me just say that we did say that you guys have to send us your address with your YouTube username on there within 24 hours of this whole thing in order to get the hat. And unfortunately, it looks like 4 or 5 people still haven't sent us their addresses. So if you don't want the hat, that's fine. That's cool. But if you did order one, we got the list of whoever ordered it, vaguely correlated with your YouTube name. So please give us your address. We want to send it to you. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to try and get that done by the time I give the second batch to take it over to the UPS store and so on and so forth. So anyway, back to you, Cody. I apologize. I was stealing the wind from your sails.
No, please, it's no problem. I just want to make sure I address that because I'm let you guys know. Yeah, we were just working on that yesterday to make sure we got them all out. Okay, so it appears most elections boil down to by the time you get to the end of them, there seems to be a topic that dominates. For example, I remember big time. A lot of people, let me know in chat. Maybe I was taking crazy pills. Actually, I probably literally was. Anyway, though. Barack Obama really heavily in 2008 went in at the end of that election on campaigning on leaving Afghanistan and getting us, or was it Iraq or Afghanistan? Getting out of the Middle East. That was a big, big push from Obama. And it kind of became that thing at the end that pushed him in his election. You ultimately need something, right? You can't just kind of be like, vote for me, I'll be better, I guess. Like, not winning me over. Well, today we saw something very interesting. I thought it was really interesting. I thought I kind of, we talked earlier, and I kind of wish we had addressed this in our video earlier today, but we didn't have time. We didn't get to it. We got to just talking more about, if you guys didn't see it, we addressed earlier the fact that they are going to be moving the location of the Democratic debate from Arizona to Washington, D.C., so there's less travel due to coronavirus concerns. But also something that happened today, both Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden gave live, basically, I don't want to say like presidential cosplay, but that's kind of what it was. Yeah. It was like they kind of both were like, okay, I'm going to pretend for a minute here I'm the president of the United States, and I'm going to give you my address of how I would plan to respond to this. So I want to maybe play a little bit of clips from these in a minute or two, but both Biden and Bernie came out and did this today. And it was just really, it's starting to look like this is going to be that push down the stretch, at least for the end of the primary for these two, but perhaps even in the general, is going to be the response to the coronavirus and how it's handled by, I do think it's funny calling it the coronavirus because as far as I understand what you're saying then, it's kind of like calling it like the SUV, It's like, well, a sports utility vehicle is a kind of vehicle, yes, but like there's multiple of them. Like that's why COVID-19 thinks it's a particular strain, but I don't know. I thought that was just interesting. But what did you think about the two speeches today?
I think that your terminology of presidential cosplay is golden, and I would make fun of it a little bit more if it actually weren't effective. And Donald Trump did this.
Yeah, no flame. It's good. It's
yeah. Donald Trump did this when he released the list of all of the federal judges that he would appoint if he were to become president. Also, actually, I mean, there's really endless examples. Every president has kind of always said, well, this is how I'd handle this and this is how I would do that, to whatever the latest, greatest problem is. I mean, even Ronald Reagan did that to the hostage crisis back in 1979 before I was born. You know, he said I'd call him up and I'd
Hold
say
on.
I was going to.
I want you to watch this ABC News video. They have an ABC News version of this. Again, I'm not saying presidential cosplay to be crude or crap. Just watch this video clip and tell me if you think that this person is a running to be a candidate or if he's the president of the globe. Just check this out.
My fellow Americans, today across the nation, many of us are feeling anxious about the spread of the COVID-19, known as the coronavirus.
I love when they do these drama packages.
Yeah, dude, seriously, dude.
They always crack me up. That's why I like to play these.
I gotta fix the camera.
Because whether or not you're affected
There we go.
or know someone who is infected or have been in contact with an infected person, this is going to require a national response, not just from our elected leaders or our public health officials, but from all of us. Yesterday, we announced a Public Health Advisory Committee of experts who will continue to counsel my campaign and me, help guide our decisions on the steps to minimize further risks. And we will lead by science. The World Health Organization now has officially declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Downplaying it, being overly dismissive, or spreading misinformation is only going to hurt us and further advantage the spread of the disease.
Dude, you know in his mind he's just loving it right now.
Clear.
Why? No, I don't.
He's like, this is what it's going to feel like. This is what it feels like.
It will infect Republicans,
it's like the airsoft guys that get a little bit too into it.
And will not discriminate based on national origin, race, gender, or zip code. It will touch people in positions of power as well as most vulnerable in our society. And it will not stop.
Dude, this music is great.
Banning all travel from Europe or any other part of the world may slow it, but as we've seen, it will not stop it. And travel restrictions based on favoritism and politics rather than risk will be counterproductive. We have to harness the ingenuity of our scientists and the resourcefulness of our people. And we have to help the world to drive coordinated global strategy, not shut ourselves off from the world.
Honestly,
protecting the health and safety of the American people is the most important job of any president. And unfortunately, this virus laid bare the severe shortcomings of the current administration. Our government's ability to respond effectively has been undermined by hollowing out our agencies and disparaging.
Let's go on for a little bit longer. I'll have the link in the chat. I didn't realize it was that long. I thought it was like they clipped out like a minute or two of it. This is like a 5-minute clip. So I'll have the whole thing. I just wanted to touch, what I wanted to really touch on there is just getting a glimpse into it. It appears that is all, I mean, I gotta say, it is literally all anybody is going to be talking about for a while. So it's kind of where we're at. All anyone's going to be talking about now is this. It's same with Bernie Sanders, same with Joe Biden. I guess I'll play a little bit of the Bernie Sanders speech he gave as well, just to be fair to both candidates. Not that I really care what either have to say in particular, because it's just a campaign speech. But
whose incompetence and recklessness have threatened the lives.
Oh, dude, Joe Biden's was a lot more dramatic.
Well, that was that's what I mean. ABC made the hype package.
But also with all 4 flags, that looked like an episode of The West Wing right there. You know what I'm saying?
To provide the necessary information to our people. The American people deserve transparency, something that the current administration has fought day after day to cite.
I'm just going to put the link there so you guys can watch these because I've read the main quotes of both of them, and I'll see if I can pull the articles up, go through some of the quotes. That's not a whole lot, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really know what else you see other than, well, if I was president, you would be more safe from the virus than right now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's sure. But that's what we're getting from them. Let's see. Now, what is really interesting, here we go. Here's some of the quotes from the article that what Sanders was talking about. He was doing a little bit of the classic, not fear-mongering, but, I mean, it is crazy. Today, we were just talking, like last night, they suspended the NBA season. I was like, dang, they suspended the NBA season. That's kind of crazy. And then this morning, I kind of knew when they suspended the NBA season. I'm like, well, MLB's next, right? A baseball season suspended. They canceled March Madness. Dude, Vegas lost billions of dollars because they canceled March Madness.
Yeah.
On top of the money Vegas is losing anyway. It's really, it keeps happening. I mentioned the Dota 2 tournament they were going to have in Los Angeles, postponed. Disneyland closed. Broadway has closed. So really, I can see why the candidates aren't talking about anything else. What's ironic in a time like this, as I was telling Cardin before, I think there's one thing that will stop people from panicking no matter what happens. Is the day the Amazon trucks stop coming, that's when people will freak out. That's when it's over. The day people are like, oh my God, I ordered my brand new tablet off Amazon and I did not get it the next day. This is bad. But we'll see, according to Bernie Sanders, that the crisis we face from coronavirus is on a scale of a major war. We must act accordingly. The number of casualties may actually be even higher than what the armed forces experienced in World War II. Sorry, Bernie. Man, that would be an absolute, if I remember right, how many people, and he did of course couch it, not including the numbers, the total death count from World War II, which we all of course know is probably a bit higher than combat deaths, but maybe, hopefully not. I gotta say, this is a big source citation needed, right? Like,
Yeah.
I need like 9 different citation numbers on that. But interesting. He would go on to say that the candidate called for drastic action to combat the spread of the disease, from guaranteeing unemployment insurance and building emergency homeless shelters to enlisting medical residents and retired doctors to aid with the response effort. The only problem I would say, and I could be wrong, let me know, but the only problem I see right here, it's big with Bernie and just they come with leftists, not like, I'm saying like the legitimate kind of left progressive people when they're talking about Medicare for all, how to be better than a pandemic and stuff like this. We're seeing things like, I think I saw yesterday, I'll see if I can pull the article up, Mike Pence announced that insurance, like these insurance companies make so much money off you, dude. For 5 months, no copays on coronavirus stuff, whatever, we can give you that. So here's the thing, when you have someone like Bernie's like, I will make all this free, they're like, well, so will we, right now, boom, done. I believe there's no copay on coronavirus-related charges right now. It's just that these companies make so much money. If you're trying to offer Medicare for all as a short-term solution, they'll say, dude, we can bankroll a short-term solution and just out-compete you until we don't need it anymore. So it's tough. We'll see. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, and they legitimately run it into the ground. But I do think that they can stand to take a quarter or two of big losses in order to keep their grasp, you know?
Well, also the idea that you can bankroll a visit to the already existing hospital system that somebody trusts, okay, is far more convincing than saying, I'm going to take over your hospital so you can go there for free. That's so much more convincing of an argument. And I think is ultimately one of the biggest reasons why one strategy fails and one strategy doesn't, is because just instinctually this idea that, okay, I can go to this thing I trust, but it won't cost me, is a lot better than you're going to change the thing I trust.
Well, no, but it's just these companies in the like these insurance companies are not going to be willing to do things like that for 2, 3, 4, 5, 30, 50 years.
Oh, yeah,
no way.
Of course not.
But if they only have to compete in a 4 or 5 month basis on it, they might, and it looks like they will. So I don't want to get too lost into that. I've just noticed that's an interesting fold where I'm looking, I'm like, but dude, the economy's taking massive hits anyway. These companies probably have enough rainy day money to take a couple of hits on a quarter or two just to keep their power. Because if they legitimately, this could be that the moment where the inverse happens and they don't have that money to back it up, and it does happen where they just prove that like this system is untenable. You can't even lie and control it anymore. It's just untenable. What you've created cannot be maintained and sustained. That's the other angle of it. We will see. Doesn't seem to be there quite yet. However, it does seem to be the American response has been different. I know, it's been way different than other countries.
Lackluster.
Well, it's the how do I describe this? It's like you can only report people as having the virus if you test them for the virus. It's that strategy. It's hey, we only tested 50,000 people, and even though, let's say, of the 50,000 we tested, a very large number of those people came back positive. I guess that's everyone. I mean, we always joke when it's political polls. On the news in a political poll, they'll tell you this. They'll have a poll of 450 people, 37 of them. We'll pick one thing, 200, and they'll say 44% of Americans feel this way. It's like, you ask 75 people a question, and all of a sudden it's Americans feel this way. And then it's funny how when things are real and they're serious and they matter, and we're talking about something like, illness that is killing people, suddenly you realize how it's kind of cheeky to do something like that and go, well, if we're just extrapolating based on this population, I guess 95% of people will die. What do you know? It's like, that's why these polls are stupid. Because some of these numbers, I don't know. I don't want to get too far into all that kind of stuff in it, but it's just, this is going to be, I mean, I believe this was this Bernie Sanders still? Let's see. Sanders spoke shortly after. Yeah. If there ever was a time in the modern history of our country when we were in this together, this is that moment. We need to worry about those who are already sick. We need to worry about working families with children, people with disabilities, the homeless, and all those who are vulnerable. Which, that's the big thing, right? Is that this is a time when, but again, I think if you need to do it for 3 or 4 months, I think the current awful medical system we have today can do that for 4 or 5 months. It could tread water, burning money on some edges to just keep
but this is my total months. This is my ultimate caveat to that statement and that sentiment, which I understand. But the Vermont senators pointed out the outbreak is further evidence of a need to pass Medicare for all, lamenting that the U.S. is at a severe disadvantage to the rest of the developed world. I don't believe that our hospitals are better. They're more expensive, but they're better than anywhere in the world. Okay, because it does not guarantee health care to everyone. Our country is uniquely poised to do a better job with coronavirus than anywhere in the world because nowhere else is a company financially motivated to find a solution. Let me tell you, if Pfizer and their scientists that I guarantee you are collecting as many blood samples and as much data as they can were to come out and say, oh my gosh, we just made the vaccine for coronavirus, they would make not billions, trillions of dollars worldwide right now.
Okay.
And there's no other country that has the research and development that we do that's poised to do that. Honestly, come on. What country is going to come with the solution to COVID-19? What country?
Dude, I believe actually there was a test kit that was made. I think Australia came up with one. Like, there's people that work around the clock 24/7 around the world.
I'm not saying inventions don't happen in other countries, but I'm saying by and large, no other country financially motivates their people.
I believe in American exceptionalism the same way. For some reason, I just think we'll be okay because it's America. But it doesn't. Unfortunately, it is not just that. You know what I mean? Because I literally do feel just like, it's America. We'll be okay here. What's happening in Italy won't happen here. But dude, I know enough about sports to know that the amount of money, and it's not just money changing hands on dude, it's TV deals that people do, TV slots. I mean, the Dodgers, it's like $1 billion thing for the Dodgers to be in the network they're on. They're just not airing this stuff. Dude, these are $1 billion hits people are taking in multiple sports. And I'm a big sports fan. That doesn't. March Madness, billions is done in just the gambling, dude. That's not the tourism. That's not the TV. That's not the slots that have been companies are taking baths on the biggest events of the year right now.
The ones that they ultimately
that's just
are the center of their economic universe.
And that's the thing. I'm not trying not to focus too much on what's going on with the actual virus because I don't know anything.
How many of these companies are doing it though to make an insurance claim?
None, dude. There's no I don't know why they're doing it, but it's not for insurance reasons. I know that.
You don't think that they might be sued?
No.
You don't think they've done a risk-benefit analysis saying an XFL game can't make as much money as a class action lawsuit would cost?
I think this happened. Okay. There was rumors that maybe one NBA player has coronavirus, and 2 days later, he already gave it to one of his teammates. So they're like, you know what? Probably not the best idea. Originally, they were going to play games without fans, but here's the thing. They're still traveling. It's the same reason why. Here's the other big thing about the sporting events, dude. The players don't teleport from game to game. They go through travel means. The main reason why they moved the debate on Sunday to D.C. from Arizona is so everyone doesn't have to travel into Arizona and travel out. That's what they don't want. I mean, dude, holy cow, Rudy Gobert was taking things so lightly. He literally, as a joke, whatever. It's not super related, but I guess I'll show this just to show you guys how fast this thing moved. Rudy Gobert, as a joke, rubbed his hands all over the microphones. Here, I'll show you this little video clip. There you go. As a joke, when he was leaving his interview, he went back and rubbed his hands over all the microphones laughing because he had shown symptoms of possibly having coronavirus. Well, a couple days later, it turns out he does have coronavirus, and wow, one of his teammates has coronavirus now, and wow, NBA season is suspended. And that's not the only thing that's suspended, guys. You were saying just insurance claims for sports. Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon Kimmel and one of the other late nights, I don't know the one for sure, but Kimmel and one other late night host, they've suspended their show at least till the end of the month. Does that mean that Pete
Till the
Buttigieg
30th, yeah.
never got to host it?
Oh, that's true. Coronavirus stopped Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, I don't think he did host it yet. I think that would be before he would have had a chance to host it. But I'm trying to pull the article up that would have just came out. Ooh, is this being disputed? I'm not seeing any actual articles confirming the suspended shows, but I have articles from Hollywood Reporter confirming the suspended live audiences. I'll go on Twitter and see if I can get the confirmation and stuff. But like, I don't know. It's really, really. Someone just Kay Davis said that day when Vegas starts calling odds and how many COVID cases will be reported the next day. I don't know if Vegas is allowed to do that, but there's definitely places online you can make those bets. I guarantee you. Yeah, Trudeau, people in the government. There's a lot of stuff going on that's scary. The biggest thing with it is the big unknown. From what I've heard, like I said, I'm no illness doctor, whatever they call those people. But what I keep just seeing is people reporting conflicting information stuff. It's like, that's weird. Why are we seeing this? This shouldn't be there, kind of stuff. And it's freaking people out. When people get freaked out, they do crazy things. It's just, it isn't normal to see this level of reaction. And that's what worries me. It's like we were talking before, joking about going on a cruise ship. It's like, dude, I'm less worried about getting the coronavirus on the cruise ship as I am just being trapped on it.
As the insanity of the people.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be trapped on it. I don't want to be stuck on a giant floating prison for 3 weeks.
This is like the
that
second.
Doesn't sound good either.
This is like the second season of The Walking Dead. I do not fear the virus or the zombies like I do the people. You know what I'm saying?
Trust me, China is uniquely posed to do like the more police statey stuff, but Italy's doing it right now, man. There's guys in full biohazard gear patrolling the streets of. They're actually patrolling the streets of Italy using drones to make sure nobody's in the streets.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
In fact, the American military couldn't do that. It's not like we have a standing army. It's not like it's American policy to have a standing army in every state, right? That isn't a thing. There isn't people that volunteer just to literally be part of a massive militia. We could rally up at a moment's notice to give every state a standing army of, what is it, like a couple 100,000 people probably across the country total? How many people do you think are in the National Guard?
Oh, no. It would have to be millions.
If they called in everyone from the National Guard, yeah. So.
Yeah, I was about to say it would have to be millions, because the other thing is that you can always call somebody back once they've registered for the armed services.
Yeah.
So if you really wanted to dip into the draft power of the National Guard, you'd easily hit millions. You'd hit millions in a heartbeat.
And someone brought up a good point. They said M4A without authoritarianism is just prolonging it. That's one of the big things about the Medicare for. Oh, by the way, hold on. I think we missed super chat way up here. We got sidetracked. $5 super chat from Matthew. Sierra Verdone, I got it wrong. I apologize. I think the real threat is overwhelming the healthcare system, not the virus itself. I'm an inner city ER nurse and can see this happening already.
So true.
Well, I mean, the analogy that I've used is like, imagine in your hometown if 7,000 people broke their leg at the same time. Like, suddenly getting treatment for a broken leg would probably be very difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, when normally you break your leg to go to the doctor, yeah, it sucks, it hurts, but they'll probably be fine.
Yeah, they'd run out of the plaster to make the casts.
Yeah.
And what do you do with a bunch of people with broken legs that don't have plasters?
Come diagnose, you know what I mean? So that is one of the biggest issues people have in general. It's what keeps happening. It's one of the reasons why China, I showed in the video earlier, China sent over full on, I think it was only 100, but the massive long respirator machines, a bunch of stuff to really try help Italy try to combat this. So it's one of the things that China also, it's important to remember, this was a really big outbreak and spread for them. It's weird. I don't like to say they were covering it up. It's the same thing the U.S. government did. It's more like they just kind of drug their feet on diagnosing it, because I don't think anyone wants to be like, yep, this is it. This is the big one. Oh, boy. Like, everyone wants to imagine, no, it's okay. And then it's like, okay, this is the big one. I think they actually fired, maybe even arrested the individual who was scapegoated for doing this. I don't know if he actually did it. I don't know much about Chinese politics, but it's just something that had been going on. It appears if it follows the Chinese curve, it gets really, really bad for a while. Severe quarantine lockdowns. I mean, China at one point was having 30-something million people unable to leave the city. Various
That's
cities.
crazy.
Various cities. I think 12 million was the largest. That was the alarming part, but they built, remember when I was freaking out when they built 10 emergency hospitals. Well, I believe they've closed almost every single one of them. So It does seem there was a sharp outbreak curve, and then it was treated and dealt with. Hopefully we'll see using some, It sucks that we are in a trade war with China. I don't know if China will just send us equipment the way they did Italy.
The way they did Italy and
I
everybody else.
Super chat. James Young, $10. The director of the CIDRAP stated the virus is airborne and lives on the surface 9 days. If Trump has been in direct contact with people who have tested positive, seems sick in his speech. Thoughts? If Donald Trump doesn't have, I don't want to say if he doesn't have coronavirus would be like he have the most strongest immune system in the world. I just know that he's been flying around, shaking hands, kissing babies on a daily basis for 5 years now.
Yeah.
I don't think he stopped in the last month or two. So yeah, I believe somebody literally photographed standing next to Donald Trump in a photo was confirmed to have coronavirus in the photo. It's assumed he did. So he might, yeah. And however, here's the thing, and it's I don't care who the person is. I do agree that, the president probably does get front of the line treatment in medical stuff. Just because it's bad to have your leader die a slow, agonizing, painful death of medical because they couldn't get him attention. It's a bad look in your international stage. Still, though, it's rough. And here's the biggest thing. Right now, it's really scary because we saw, not all of us, I saw what happened in China big time. That was frightening. What's going on in Italy right now, stories coming out are terrifying. They're frightening. And we're seeing it almost feels like that moment when the water recesses before the wave, where it's things are getting canceled, people are going out less. The toilet paper meme is still. I have to say, the toilet paper meme. It's dude, do people not realize the fifth day in a row they lined up early to bust in there and grab all the toilet paper? It's it's almost like they just keep restocking it. They just keep bringing more in. I get in some places they don't, and there's days in between. I'm kind of being facetious, but it's almost they still have it. You can order that on Amazon. But it's starting to happen. But the other thing is though it's also possible that it sucks that you can't trust the media as much as you used to. It's possible somehow. I have a better way of phrasing it. I want to pull out this exact quote. I believe it was he Kaiser Wilhelm?
Okay.
Talking about the Americans. But it was basically the quote. I could have got it wrong. I could have got this totally wrong. I wrote some input. But it was a quote from a former German leader. And it was something along the lines of that God is a certain favoritism for the fools, the drunks, and the Americans. You know, the kind of beginner's luck, the moron just stumbling through. And so it was almost there's been this vision of the Americans where it's somehow, and I could definitely see someone in continental Europe being dude, we got all these great wars, these plagues, all this nonsense. When is America's finally going to get any of it? And
can I jump in here for a second, Cody?
By all means.
Hanksaw makes a great comment in the chat right now. Great member, great comment. He says, it's time for America to welcome bidets into our homes.
I agree.
Yes. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the bidet experience, it is exhilarating. It is refreshing. It is the only way to go. I did it for 2 years. And let me tell you, once you go bidet, you never go back. Neanderthals use toilet paper. It is so much more refined. And if you think about it, Cody, if you were sitting on the beach and a bald eagle was just flying by, it went caw, and then boom, pooped on your head. Would you just take a bunch of toilet paper and wipe off that poop and then be like, okay, I'm good to go out through the rest of the day?
I understand.
No, you'd be hosing that cheese down, and that's what a bidet is. It's the hose.
I get the science behind how they
work.
But it's just, there does seem to be, but it's just, I do not see how they, at the minimum, the primary doesn't just become consumed by this only. There's going to be single issue voters, dude, and their only issue is going to be coronavirus. What's your response? There's going to be people who didn't vote before. There will be diehard, MAGA hat 24/7 ride or die Trumpers that will vote against him if he responds poorly enough. I think that's the election we're headed towards.
Yeah, well,
it's just I care about a thing, and this is it.
So Trev Third says wet wipes, bruh, wet wipes. All right, but I got to tell you, wet wipes are not biodegradable like toilet paper. So they're actually disallowed in many municipalities, and the ones that they say are biodegradable, they don't, dude. I've seen a million people where they've gotten big time roach problems, and it's because their septic is backed up because they were using those wet wipes. The wet wipes ain't the answer, my man. I know Will Smith made them big and popular for a while there, and I was using the wet wipes until it clogged my my system in my old house built in 1964. So I'm telling you, the bidet. If there's nothing you learn from the stream other than the importance of bidets, then it will be a success in this world gone crazy and upside down.
By the way, a clip-on bidet from Walmart is like $50.
Awesome.
They just stick onto the side of your toilet.
Hey, this is my hospital Big Gulp.
Nice.
From the hospital brand.
I have to admit, only one left. People are realizing it. Other people have the same idea. Other people are like, wait a minute here. Why am I? Oh my God, that cracks me up, dude. Look at this. Check this out. Can I get this framed correctly so you can see it? Yeah, here we go. Here is the Walmart Greenco bidet freshwater spray non-electric mechanical bidet toilet seat attachment. Wow, that is a jumble of SEO right there. Only one left.
Yes. Or are they just saying that?
Go quick if you want to get them.
Are they just saying that and then they put only 3 left?
I mean, if they have only one left in stock. If they get restocked in a few days, then it'll just say nothing because there'll be 40 left in stock. That's how they do it. It's funny though. It's funny you bring that up, and that is what we see that it is. I mean, I do agree. Something else too is like. There's a lot of people like,
dude, 3-putt bogey says poop then shower every time. I'm that way too.
Well,
I always got to shower now coming back from Argentina.
I guess I was trying to say what I was trying to say is a lot of the stuff people are going to the store and buying. It's like it's pretty much contingent on the water to be running, and if the water's running and you got nowhere to be, you're not going to any dances, any balls, any parties, any work or anything, then there's. Toilet paper is a nice commodity, but it does seem to go down in necessity when I'm stuck in my house all day with running water. Now, here's the thing. Once the water stops running, dude, the fact that you don't have toilet paper is going to be so far in your list of priorities. Like, once the water stops running, things will go crazy for at least a short term. So, I don't know. The fact that they're going to shut the water off and, oh, God, my bidet doesn't work, it's going to be your primary fear is kind of funny to me. It's like, dude, they shut the water off. It's going to be not a very happy time for people. But, again, I think the biggest thing is it'll be an interesting time to see what happens with the – it sucks to say it, but do you know what makes American citizens or just citizens in general feel better during times of stress and unease like this? It ain't freedom, dude. It's the government stepping in and doing a lot of this. I swear to God, it really is. So it will be interesting to see how things go there. By the way, Devlin Ducky Hodges, $2 super chat saying, "Looking healthy, Cardin. Saludos, Cody."
Saludos.
Thank you very much.
That means salutations, my friend.
Salutations.
So thank you very much. I have actually switched my leukemia medication to a product manufactured by our good friends over at Novartis. Known as Gleevec, and so I got off the insane hydroxyurea stuff, and though I am still very much fatigued many times throughout the day, I do find myself in better spirits, in higher spirits, and feeling better. Has far less side effects, and has a crazy cool name that sounds intense. You know, it's like Soylent Green and Gleevec. You know, it seems like they could have been, competing subsistence foods back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of which, Cody, have you ever actually seen Soylent Green?
No.
The original movie with Charlton Heston, where
no.
It's people.
I know which one it is, but I've never seen it.
Oh man, dude, we got to do that. We're actually really curious. Guys, Honey Valentina says PSP en español. Sí, sería una buena idea. Yeah, that'd be a really good idea. In fact, we've kind of toyed around how to use my Spanish skills, all right, in cyberspace, and we're actually branching out here at Problem Solver Politics. We are continuing doing all of our coverage, but now also with the additional time that we have, and hopefully coming up in the summer, we'd like to do some limited edition, or else possibly just their own project additional channels, one focused on history because me and Cody are big time history fans, and also we want to start doing some public domain movie watches because both of us love kind of classic Hollywood and also just a lot of these crazy funny 60s and 70s movies that are in the public domain. And then we want to know what you guys want to see because we have a wide depth and breadth of things that we like to talk about and things that we like to study. And honestly, the funnest part about being a YouTube content creator is actually the research and development of the videos, maybe not even the execution thereof, but the fun research that goes into each one of these productions. So if there's additional content you guys would like to see, please let us know in the chat, because we'd absolutely love that. Now, Palm Sun says Spanish Bane equals #winning. Oh my gosh, what would Spanish Bane sound like? He'd be like, he would say like, "Oh, vos adoptaste la oscuridad. Yo me crié en ella." That's how he would say, like, "You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it." You know what I'm saying? That's
Dude,
like,
we gotta find the
Spanish Bane right there.
We have to find the uninterrupted plane scene. I have to find it. If anyone can send me the link of the plane scene from the beginning of The Dark Knight Rises, with Bane, the legendary For You scene. If you could send me that, I can't find it anywhere on the internet. It's probably, I take that back. I couldn't find it on YouTube. It's probably on Dailymotion or something like that. But
so Ismail Hossein
Really
says,
wanna find
yes, history would be awesome. And there's a question here from, whoa, I've never seen that cipher before. Guy's name is G, I guess. Any particular time histories or time periods, location you guys would focus on? What history? ? There's actually really cool aspects of every type of history. Something that Cody really likes big time is ancient and forgotten weapons. Everything from medieval stuff all the way up to, this guy is an enthusiast of all kinds of different weapons from World War I, the turn of the century, World War II. It's actually pretty interesting. Let me see. Ward Smith says recast a wrestling match.
that'd be fun. Honestly, if I heard history content, I would probably just read a bunch of books and read all the content I could about the Hussite Wars and do a series on that. I feel like there's not enough of that in English, so I try to track down everything I could, aggregate it, and then hopefully
is that the group
bother
that
some
came
people from the Bohemian region to help me figure this out.
Yeah,
Those are the followers of Jan Hus. He was I think it was just called Bohemia at the time. He basically discovered John Wycliffe a couple hundred years later and retranslated all this stuff. And then the church, long story short, the church burned him alive as a heretic. And then there was a large series of bloody wars between the people loyal to him and they fought each other. And then they were also fighting the crumbling leadership in the area. It was fun shenanigans. Crazy story. Very interesting time period. Had nothing to do with anyone that spoke English ever. So it's just not something that's taught very much any kind of. It's really funny. One thing I love about history is when you branch out of just go to Eastern Europe. It's a good place to pick. But you can also pick Latin America, anywhere. Branch out to anywhere where people that spoke English had nothing to do with history involved. And it's not like Rome or Egypt. No one talks about it. I was telling something I thought was interesting. I think we brought it up. There's there's a lot of things that are like legendary national moments for various countries. And if no one who spoke English stepped foot in that country during that time, ain't no one gonna talk about it in any country that speaks English. Don't care. Didn't happen. So I think it'd be fun to kind of shine lights on some of that stuff and enlighten it for more let the Anglos know what's going on in the other parts of the world, I guess, so to speak.
So we got some interesting comments here. And first off, I will say, today we're actually going to be having a lot of fun. We don't just want to get bogged down talking about all of the depressing stuff about coronavirus, because basically just the world is shut down. That's all the real news is. If there's anything major that you had planned in your life, it's probably been stopped by coronavirus. So I've actually thought that this might be a really good thing for our world and for our humanity and for us as a people. I remember there was this guy in the late 1990s who had petitioned the UN to actually have an official day of no war. He'd actually successfully petitioned the United Nations to have a day in which it was just unilaterally declared the day of no war. And he worked for like 2 or 3 years on getting an official petition signed and so on and so forth. And inadvertently, coronavirus has shut so much down that, like today, for example, I cleaned our studio. You'll notice we've made a lot of good changes. I've caught up with family members that I was always too busy to talk with for far too long before. And I think there might be a little bit of a spiritual rebirth during this time of shutdown. So today, we're actually going to do something unique. Please ask us whatever questions you have, whatever suggestions you have. But also, a lot of people have expressed interest in my Spanish. Anybody that wants me to translate live on air, anything funny or crazy or just a message for their girlfriend or whatever, anybody that super chats me, I'll do my best to translate what I can or what you want me to say in Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So that'll be our Spanish Bane. And we got a question here from Mental Messiah. Screw payroll taxes for people that may lose their jobs or forced to take non-paid leave. This is a good time to entertain UBI than any other. Yeah, it's a great conversation starter. Wonderfully great conversation starter. Whether we like it or not, globalism, this is really the first true test of globalism. Some might say that 9/11 was kind of like one of the first real true tests of globalism. But really, in its infancy, technology has united us a whole lot more than we'd like to admit. And this kind of was one of the first things that's putting it to the test. And globalism, despite many of its negative aspects, has very positive aspects. And one of those positive aspects is its universal nature. Okay. And what better time to talk about universal basic income, okay, than when there's a universal problem that the whole world is facing together. Also today, thank you very much, Mental Messina, for the super chat. If you guys want me to say something cool in Spanish over the next little bit, make sure you just send us a super chat and I'll do my best. And then also we're going to talk about the cool things that we like so you guys get to know me and Cody a little bit better. You know, we're going to be having some fun just talking about like cool stuff. Ask us any questions because there's been some really interesting chats here that I really agreed with too. Is Rufio547 says, Trev Third says Cardin is Spanish. No, I'm not. I'm actually Polish and American, my friend. Closest living relative to Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross. And my grandfather escaped both the Nazis and the fascists in, all over Europe and then fought for the Polish Brigade. Rufio547 says, on a serious note, back like last May, we had a real in-depth discussion one night on theology, the major religions versus atheism, etc. Cody was off for the night. It was just Cardin, but enjoyed it greatly. Absolutely, my man. Boom shakalaka. I do have a podcast I might revive called Mormon Think Tank myself, but also on this show. If you got any questions, we'd love to talk about it. Alex P says Cardin is English. No, I'm not English. I'm just American and Polish. And then let me see. We got, let me see. Ha, Cardin, I already speak Spanish. I'll just translate myself, says derail to the T. Oh, that's great. By the way, isn't knowing Spanish the awesomest thing on earth because you can travel through half the countries in the world. Anyway, Cody. T-Dot says Ellis is definitely not a Polish last name. No, you're correct. It's an adoptive name from my grandfather who was in the American Air Force that was injected in the family in the late 60s, early 70s. My birth name without that adoption that I think was formalized in the 80s would have been Tomacek. So I would by birth be Cardin Tomacek. So that was very, very interesting. So Cody, back to you, my man. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat. One thing someone mentioned, it's really interesting. Yeah, I think how do I put this? It's really going to be interesting to see what happens when the country shuts down for a few years and to see how well we really can get by. I don't know, a few weeks or months, and how we can get by without the things we've become accustomed to. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the stuff out there I think will be just fine with, I guess as long as those Amazon Prime trucks keep delivering on time, man, most people won't even really notice much is going on around. The biggest thing here, though, is it's going to be how we react as people, all right? That's one thing that really that's kind of interesting me now, because some of the stuff you read about this thing is like ridiculous. I think I read in The Hill, like it can last in the air for days. It's like, well, I guess I'll stop breathing air then. Like what? Like, oh, I'll get my mask. I'll get my goggles. By the way, if you don't have your goggles that don't let anything in either, it'll just get into your eyes. And then make sure when you take your mask off, you like what? It's just it's crazy, right? And then the news is freaking. It's an because every morning I wake up, and I was joking with Cardin, but there was some meme I saw, and the meme kind of jokingly refers to a phone as like a nightmare rectangle, and it's like, dude, that's what the last week has felt like. It's like I stare at my nightmare rectangle today. It's like, oh god, stock market greatest crash of all time again. Cool, I'm glad that happened again. Oh, what else happened? Oh, they canceled everything I was interested in watching. Great, that's just not gonna happen.
Hey, so Cody,
hold on, one thing. This is unacceptable that happened. This was when I saw something and I was like, dang, dude, there's no way this isn't. Like, I'm not like panicked, freaking out, like it's gonna end, but this was when I realized there's no way this doesn't just start to greatly impact the next few months of the life of many people, especially myself. this was not something I expected to read. So this is we don't read Variety very often on this channel. But, they pushed back Fast and the Furious 9 due to coronavirus.
Dude.
Apparently not Fast and Furious enough, but
yeah,
that's what I was like. Okay, no, just liking things and being interested in them being available is probably going to be a struggle for the next few weeks or months, and that sucks. That also is part of being a lazy, comfortable, stupid American. It's like, dude, they pushed back Fast and the Furious 9. Where's my basketball? But like, I don't know. I would just say it's bad precursors. It's not a good omen. I don't feel like you cancel things that generate billions of dollars in revenue just because you don't feel like maybe risking it. Like, I feel like it's because there's going to be pretty big social disruption, which sucks. And when I say social disruption, I don't mean riots. I just mean like, things that were like economies, that restaurants, bars. Like, I'm going to admit, I got no wants in me at all to go to any bar right now and just hang out.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of weird when you think about trying not to get sick? You think about stuff you do normally. It's like, wow, I would just go at the bar, but I don't care if someone just threw up at the stool and they just wiped it down. I didn't notice anything. I'll just drink out of a glass. The beer will kill it. You know what I mean? And people change really quickly. But the funny thing I think will be, and this is my probably stupid hot take prediction, I do think once it passes, there will be a few months, and then all of a sudden people will be right back to doing potentially dangerous things again, getting each other sick. I mean, probably the dumbest thing I saw today, though, it's like, okay, they pushed back the release date of Fast and the Furious 9, but a couple 100,000 people going to Disneyland, that's A-okay. That was when I was like, what? Or, oh my God, I think there was a school district, they announced next Monday schools will start being off. It's like, I didn't know coronavirus fears. I didn't know the coronavirus starts spreading next Monday. I'll be sure to tell the kids when they're at school, don't worry, kids, you can't get sick till next Monday. That's why we're canceling school. If it's worth canceling classes, period, then do it now. Go to school for the remainder of the week. We have to make sure your college... It's ridiculous. Like, dude, what? That doesn't make any... If things are so bad kids cannot be in the school, then they probably shouldn't be in the school. That's just it's my crazy opinion. It's my crackpot theory that I have. But I don't know. There does seem to be, and I do think a little bit of it is it can't be that bad. There's no way it's going to cause disruption. But I don't know. The thing is that I hope the people in charge are smart enough to realize strict law enforcement, and you make sure those trucks and those trains run on time, and you can keep a lot of people.
When Cody runs the universe. So Sam,
no, but I'm just saying that'll keep a lot of people, content during what could be a pretty long, miserable spring.
Yeah. So Sam Buxton says, my beautiful better half would like to know how to say, get me out of the ditch. I've been here all night in Spanish, por favor. Either that or else he's in trouble, and he just wants to know how to say it to a Latin lover. We don't know which one Sam is vying for. But let me see. Get out of the ditch. I've been here all night. You would say, oh, por favor, sacame de este pozo, which means like this hole or this ditch, Rich. You could say la zanja, but that's like a sewage ditch in South America. So you would say, sacame de este pozo, hace toda la noche que estoy acá, which means it's been all night that I've been here. All right, that was funny. That was pretty interesting. We also got Alicia, who's got a real issue here, man. She says she's planning her wedding this summer, but she thinks she'll postpone it. Hopefully the outbreak is over and we'll be done by then. Well, look, hey, the wedding's between you and your fiance, man. Just do it. And also, if you do it during the coronavirus scare, plane tickets are going to be dirt cheap. Everybody can travel so much less expensively. Do it on a cruise ship. They've probably sanitized the whole thing and nobody wants to go, and the tickets are going to be like $100. They just want to pay for fuel at that point, to get it back into the harbor.
I have a friend whose wedding's coming up this summer. I didn't think about that. Dude, no offense to Alicia. If you invited me to your cruise ship wedding, I would just say, hey, something came up.
Okay.
Because it's like, dude, I'm not...
Hanksor makes a big...
I agree. That's going to be... Dude, if they canceled March Madness, which, again, is like a huge thing, dude, there's going to be a lot of people unwilling to show up to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so Hanksor makes an interesting question. He says, do you think automated restaurant experiences will be in demand after coronavirus? The demand would be financial, most likely due to loss of business because of, the fear of people interacting with other people and communicable diseases, which would just be another example of another reason why you don't want human employees. I mean, they can sue you, they can have accidents, you can have HR problems, they can sexually harass each other and create a hostile work environment lawsuit. I mean, there's 1,000,001 reasons why you'd rather invest in a machine than in a human, and one of them might be fear of a communicable disease. Although I will tell you that, I mean, public places can be dirty too. I don't like touching those screens. Like when I'm the 15th person in line ordering a burger.
The larger thing would be,
I don't know if I want a kiosk.
They don't get sick.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's a workforce that never stops.
Yeah. Although they don't get sick. Let's see what the hackers have to say about that. But anyway, Rufio547 says, have you guys made any progress in getting Zoltan on for an interview? We've emailed him. We're in the process of getting that done. I've watched his episode on Rogan and on Humanity First. I think you guys would have a great sit down with him. Yes, we do too. And Ted Tillman says, if you speak fluent Spanish, travel to Colombia, the women there are hands down the most beautiful in the world. Well, there are many beautiful Colombians, but I don't know what the Venezuelans would have to say about that, bro. So, I think every country's got a claim on that one. Cubanos, Chilenos, the whole 9 yards. And J-Rock suspects, much like you said, Cody, esports probably get a boost.
I think George Soros invested in him. He's a pretty rich guy. He tends to invest in things that make money.
I have a friend that bought nothing but video game stock.
But at the same time, when the stuff happened, the fears began. At the same time, there was an esports event that was canceled or postponed in Los Angeles. So it's esports, like the big esports events, like the actual big finals events. It's like any sport. Fans really do make the experience, and so they're generally all in front of large crowds, and that'll still be an issue. Also, the 5 players need to travel, and generally they want to play together. So those all could be issues. I think that was an issue.
Yeah. So I'm not fearful. I'm interested. Actually, I shouldn't say I'm not fearful. I'm immunodepressed. Oh my gosh, I'm screwed if I get it. You know what I'm saying? And I've had tons of very close to your friends that have gotten coronavirus. I mean, you and I are friends with the owner of the radio station that's on Fox News and on all these other places, who was one of the first coronavirus I shouldn't say victims, but I would just say patients of American origin that got it. So, yeah, I mean, if I get it, cancer patients are always the first to get screwed. So I'm being very vigilant in my not self-quarantine, but in my interactions with others throughout the day. But I also kind of look at this in a way that Elon Musk does. Elon Musk, when we first started this channel, Cody, I don't know if you remember it, but he said he didn't view universal basic income as anything other than an eventuality. That it's just going to happen. It's going to be a necessity. Okay? And then he said something very interesting. He said, then we're going to have to actually focus on some of the deeper questions and the deeper things that are harder to answer, which was a very spiritual response. And I'm looking at coronavirus, and yeah, we're all scared. And yeah, everybody's, shutting down and stopping their regular actions. But I look at this and I'm curious to see how it doesn't help us. I remember in the great earthquake of 1994, there was the Martin Luther King Day quake here in Los Angeles. And up until Hurricane Katrina, it was the single most expensive natural disaster in American history. It was a 6.8 on the Richter scale in the middle of just a huge populous city that just destroyed billions of dollars in an earthquake. Like, there were houses that were just completely destroyed in our hometown. And I remember what was so interesting about that is everybody's gas was shut off, but my dad knew how to shut off gas. So all of a sudden, all these neighbors we never knew were like, hey, I hear you're the guy that knows how to shut off gas. Can you shut off my gas? So your house doesn't explode. You're worried about all kinds of gas leaks. And then we also, being, kind of like preppers and emergency prepared people, we had water that was in all these 2-liter bottles. My dad, whenever he would finish soda, he would always fill it up with tap water and 2 drops of bleach. And we had a whole wall that had a ton of water in our house, And there were some families that had like babies that still
drink
needed
the bleach.
No, it's as long as you let it air out for 10 minutes before you drink it, it's completely potable. In fact, now the chlorine content in regular Los Angeles water doesn't even require you putting a little bit of bleach in it. It's already got enough chlorine in it that you can just straight bottle it in with some Teflon tape in a regular water bottle. So we were able to actually just give out like these 2-liter bottles of water to some of these families that were less prepared or were new move-ins on our block. That had, children who needed to mix the baby formula and so on and so forth. And everybody was worried about getting all the perishable stuff out of their fridge. So we actually had for like 2 or 3 nights a block party. Where everybody was just like, oh, I got like 3 eggs. I've got like, 3 dozen eggs that are going to go bad. Oh, I got a bunch of meat that we got to grill, And so we all just came together and we made awesome stew. We made awesome omelets.
You can't do that during coronavirus.
No, I get that. But I'm just saying, you can't catch up with people you haven't caught up on before. You can.
No, do not meet
call them on the phone.
Do not meet. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Don't have block parties with people you haven't seen before.
No. I'm not saying, that we're all going to be coming together like that, but I'm just saying
I know, I get it.
We're going to be able to do other stuff. So we got some super chats here.
Gamer, I'm going to be gaming. Gamers Rise, man. I'm going to be gaming a lot.
Okay, so Sonic
I'm going to be playing a Hold Fast Nations at War 24/7 during this thing. Anyway, we got Sonic Fan 28. Shout out to Sonic Fan 28. $20 super chat. New Mexico has canceled all public schools for 3 weeks due to coronavirus. Yet my college said classes will continue. You tell your college I'm continuing going. That's ridiculous, man. Now, you guys, that's that same energy as the person who like drags themselves to work half alive, sick, just to be like, I'm here, boss. We don't care. Leave. You're going to get us all sick. That same thing is, we here, we'll show up in person. No, I don't want to get sick. That's ridiculous. And then Tai, oh, what up, man? $2 super chat. Pretty sure Zoltan ended this campaign today. Dang it. Well, you know what? I still want to get him on anyway, but we want to have him on as a candidate. He'll probably be less likely
His
to
transhumanism stuff is pretty wild, too.
You know what? If you had robot lungs, you would not have to worry about coronavirus, huh? Think about that. Maybe he's on to something. One thing that's funny you bring it up too, though, just to get to the idea of the kind of more community stuff. About like what I was trying to get to is like, for example, of water. Do you remember when there was water problems after the earthquake? What happened?
Yes.
Sylmar,
with Budweiser.
Not Sylmar. Van Nuys.
By the way, I was telling this to my friend. There's
breweries.
one picture online. Can you pull it up?
Yeah, I'll find it. Give me a second.
Okay.
But anyway, so in Van Nuys, which is kind of a little bit north of Los Angeles, it's like LA County. They have very large breweries. Anheuser-Busch, I believe, right? Or is it?
Oh, it was Anheuser-Busch.
I think it is.
It was the Bud Light Brewery.
So anyway, at this brewery, I'll pull it up for you guys. They made a bunch of canned. It was like a beer can with their logo on it, but it was water.
Oh yeah.
And it was for the LA earthquake the earthquake in Northridge. And it was what they were giving to people. Let me see if I can find.
Hey, can I explain it while you're looking up the picture? Oh, there it is. Awesome.
Yeah, and there was. So I mean, like, the one thing that's nice, not nice, but the one thing about this, what we do seem to know about the coronavirus, it doesn't seem to be. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys a funny little story here. Cardinal will tell you this too. Well, you didn't know this, but I started reading heavily about this stuff, like online, just various random forums, news articles, random Twitter accounts that popped up talking about this stuff. Probably early January, maybe January 13th, 14th, right around when Wuhan got closed down. I started looking into what's going on, right? That night, I watched the movie Contagion. I'm sure a lot of you guys have since watched it for the thing. I literally didn't sleep that night. It freaked me out so much. Dude, because I didn't know anything about what's going on. In that movie...
Is that the day you were grumpy?
No. In that movie Contagion, it was like you'd get sick and like 2 days later, you'd be like a healthy person in your 20s and you would like just drop dead in the middle of the road. It's like, oh my God, that's what's going to happen here? Because Contagion is actually loosely based on what's going on. Loosely based and dramatized, but... it's, obviously from the past, but this idea, something coming out of Eastern Asia that's like a coronavirus type thing. So anyway, I thought it was funny because in real life, you don't have people, crawling on their knees dying in the streets. So in real life, if there's water shortages, we're able to do stuff like have the government come in. And I believe this was at a time in America when corporations would just give free drinking water to people because like corporations there was still a soul in a corporation. Corporations have lost all souls now. It's just for the profit. But there is a time when there's a soul there.
So there's a big argument going on right now in the chat about whether it's chlorine bleach or bleach and whether or not I was chugging bleach as a child. No, it was 2 drops for every 2 liters, guys. Okay. And then also bleach is a commodity that doesn't necessarily specify the active ingredient. You can have bleaches that are based off of, it's like hydrochloric peroxide, and then some of it is some kind of hydrogen-based peroxide or whatever. There's lots of different types of bleaches. It doesn't necessarily have to be chlorine, and to bleach generally means to chemically sterilize. So they oftentimes are synonymous, but not always the exact same thing. And the whole reason why we're actually showing this Anheuser-Busch picture that's so interesting is because in 1994 in that quake, when the water mains were destroyed, we had a really interesting problem here in Los Angeles. If any of you guys remember the movie Chinatown, all right, about the water wars and so on and so forth, Los Angeles was never able to truly population boom, okay, until it was able to secure a large-scale source of potable water. And we basically stole a bunch of water from the Owens River Valley by buying all of their water rights and then creating the Los Angeles Aqueduct. Yeah, buying.
Like
exactly.
50 quotation marks.
No, we bought it at like triple the price of what it was. And then there were some people that saw the writing on the wall and then tried to sabotage the California Aqueduct. But basically, the Los Angeles Aqueduct that Mulholland had built to get the water from the Owens River Valley, which is up basically by Yosemite and Mammoth and so on and so forth, all the way down in Los Angeles, was considered one of the greatest engineering marvels of the world because he only used siphons and natural gravity. He used zero electricity. And because of that...
it's the reason Mulholland Drive is named after.
Yeah, it's the reason why Mulholland Drive is named Mulholland Drive. I mean, he literally built like everything in Los Angeles that's big and touristy that we all look at now because bureaucracies keep us from building anything anymore. But what's interesting is he was born in the late 1800s, and in 1884 was made the chief engineer of Los Angeles. He got famous for his stuff that was Art Deco stuff in the teens and the 20s, but he is really made chief engineer after having been a ditch digger for irrigation in Los Angeles. And I'm going somewhere with this, okay? But because his span as chief engineer was so long, those like 50 years, it wasn't until the St. Francis Dam disaster, I think in 1924, 1927, that he finally quit. But he had been... and at that point, it was the largest loss of life from any engineering disaster in North America. Over 400 people died from the St. Francis Dam collapse that he had built. But he had been chief engineer, Cody, for so long. And there were no real rules back then with coding and plan submission and so on and so forth, that there were lots of waterworks projects where buildings needed water, and he'd done the calculations and figured out how many pipes needed to go where, down what part of the blocks, so on and so forth, that there to this day are still entire portions and sections of the Los Angeles water grid where we don't know where the pipes are. Like when Mulholland died, he just died. Like, and people in the 20s and 30s for years would like write in their diaries that, you know, we had to pull water for this, you know, stadium to get built or whatever, but we didn't know where the main was. We didn't know if it was under, you know, 1st Street or under 2nd Street. We didn't know where it was to tap into it. And we can't just start like, you know, bulldozing down Main Street to figure it out. So we got to call up Mulholland and ask if he knows where it is. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that day it was raining. Yeah, we had to bury the pipe underneath the sidewalk on the side of Broadway and, you know, 3rd, you know, so there's all of this water pipage that we don't even know where it is underneath LA. And so with that said, in the 1994 quake, the water mains had broken and it was difficult to sometimes find where the breaks were and so on and so forth. So everybody's potable water stopped. You couldn't take showers, you couldn't drink, and drinking water being the biggest necessity was the biggest problem. But the massive brewery, okay, in Van Nuys, the Anheuser-Busch has with billions of gallons of water, was still full and was still safe. So what they did as their like donation to the public in a time of need, so that we didn't, you know, have people fighting over water bottles in the store, because they started rationing the amount of things you were allowed to get from the stores, and the cops would stay outside of the stores. I don't know if you remember that, Cody, but I
think I was 17 months old.
Yeah, you were pretty young.
That.
But I was at that point 11 years old. I remember it well. I was in junior high. So anyway, they drained the silos. They got the electricity with their emergency generators working on again. And instead of bottling and canning booze from the hops in this silo, they drained all the water silos and just canned water and made these really interesting cans that just had the Anheuser-Busch logo on it that said, drinking water only, not for resale, you know. And did you ever taste this stuff, Cody? Did you ever get a can of that later on in life?
No.
It tasted horrible. It was.
I think they're selling canned water. I think someone brought canned water back a while ago.
Yeah, it was. It definitely tasted bad because it's in a can. You know, it's in an aluminum can. But man, it was good and it was safe and everybody was grateful to get it. So, yeah, that's a little bit of Southern California lore. Every once in a while, you'll see a family that's still got a 6-pack of that in their garage here. And it's like, oh yeah, so you went through that. Oh, you remember the quake in '94, you know? And it's like bragging rights down here. I mean, I don't know if it's bragging rights, but anyway. How old were you in '94?
I was like a year and a half.
Jeez, you're a child of the '90s. Gosh.
Yeah, we were just watching earlier before this. If you go to the if you look up the VHS archive on archive.org, I think it is, there's people that just recorded like 5 hours of Cartoon Network, 5 hours of Nickelodeon on VHS, and then they upload it to the internet, and it's got that same VHS quality weird. It's really I was talking with Carden about it. It's a really unique experience because it's one thing to say that like, oh, you can go back and watch those episodes from the shows then. It's like, okay. It's like, we can preserve the commercials. It's like, okay, but there is something to that televised format, the way the commercials are layered, the way the commercials show up, the various little promos and bumpers and sweeps for the networks and stuff like that. It all does come together to make a complete package. And I don't know. I just think I don't know what this has to do with anything. It's reminded me of it. I definitely think there's something to preserving that in and of itself. It's one thing to individually preserve the elements, but then there's also something to the composition of the elements. Totally random. I don't know. Anyway, let's see.
There is so much talk in the chat about this bleach thing. what brand of bleach tastes best? Actually, my wife's uncle committed suicide by drinking a bunch of bleach. So I hear that's a horrible way to go and obviously would never endorse such an act. Guys, you off-gas it first. It's just like if you have a fish tank and it's a freshwater fish tank. You let the water that you're going to put in your goldfish tank sit out for 10 minutes so that it can off-gas any of the sterilizing agents inside, all right? So it's the same thing if you're camping. You can chemically sterilize water, but to avoid ingesting and destroying the good chemical bacteria in your gut and in your stomach and your intestines, you let it off-gas, people. You know what I'm saying? We should have a prepper channel where you'd like teach people how to
it's crazy.
Survive.
It's crazy to me. You think you could just be like, yeah, I used to put bleach in water and drink it, and like people just like, oh, that's whatever. Yeah, I don't me too, dude. That's where you do it too. Anyway, 1 second. Someone brought something up I want to point out in a super chat. Chase Bonifay, Joe super chat. So will coronavirus keep older Biden voters home? First of all, yes. Now, will it stop them from voting? It appears, I'll see if I can dig up the articles again. A lot of states are preparing for multiple ways for older voters, specifically for this reason, to vote. One way would be to have somebody else just like you like sign and basically do like a mini notary or a mini I am allowing this person to take my ballot for me. Some states that allow ballot harvesting, that'll probably just become a larger thing. Ballot harvesting, it allows the person to basically someone will show up to the house, take the ballot for you, turn it in. Vote by mail. We saw in Washington, which is kind of the epicenter of this outbreak of vote by mail. That's how they vote. That was a really big help for them. But we've seen some states start putting infrastructure because, to be point, yeah, like people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, no flame, those are Biden voters, and they're definitely not going to want to go out and wait in line in front of a bunch of people. So they are putting things in place. Will it impact their turnout all in all, right? When you count vote by mail, voter ballot harvesting, stuff like that, I don't know yet. It is weird, though. It is a very interesting wrinkle. The thing is, it's like the young people aren't showing up anyway, though. I can't imagine they'll come out and be, oh, quick, the coronavirus, all the boomers are inside. Go vote. We can make Bernie win. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but it could lead to some Biden voters just having a more, I don't want to say staying home, like they won't vote, but maybe it's just more difficult for them to vote, and some might not vote for that reason.
Yeah, that's true. We got some really funny comments here. Alex P says, nothing will keep old people from voting. It's their destiny. It's kind of true, man. I volunteered for a while at the local, gosh, if I don't say the actual name, what do you call the senior citizen center, we'll say. I volunteered at the local senior citizen center. And man, let me tell you, dude, I mean, old people are just like programmed to have their daily routine and wake up at ungodly hours of the morning, fall asleep super early, like at 6:30 or 7:30. And man, they'll miss your name. They won't remember your name or the details of much anything. But dang it, man, you better believe if there's some weird special election for water board in some obscure part of town, you know what I'm saying? They will research each one of those candidates, know how that water board functions by the end of the day, and by golly, they're gonna be showing up to vote for water board. You know, old people are awesome like that. And actually, that's one of the things that I really, really like about being Mormon, Cody, is how many old people are in your congregation. Like, there's lots of old people in the congregations, you know. I was just sitting down with this guy, okay, in my congregation that I had no idea was an ex-Vietnam vet. And he doesn't like talking about it too much, but I always told him, I said, dude, like, old guys like you know, we call him, let's just say his name, we call him Old Man Blank, what his name is. So let's say it's Old Man Steven. You know what I'm saying? But he always volunteers to, like, you know, clean the chapel and stuff.
Use the SpongeBob naming convention?
I'm sure it was actually a naming convention that existed in Leave It to Beaver long before SpongeBob.
Are you sure? Old Man Jenkins from SpongeBob.
No, but like Old Man Leary, Old Man Stevie, Old Man Johnson. That's an old term that dates back to the 50s. So anyway, I started.
You sure?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I started peppering him with, like, you know, some questions like, dude, so what'd you do, man? What was it like? So on and so forth. And I found out because I was asking about the guns. It was interesting, a gun-based conversation. At first I was like, we're using the AK, the M16, what we're using? And he said, no, actually all they gave us was a knife and a pistol. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, because we had to carry stuff around. And he said, also, I wasn't in uniform. I dressed all in black. We're like, what? And he was the guy that had to go into the tunnels and plant the claymore mines.
Oh, cool.
So that when they were going, oh man, he was saying some really freaky, scary stories and stuff like that. I was like, I don't like talking about it too much, but I can tell you this. And they'd tell us what it was like trying to hide out when they're walking like within 5 feet of you, you know, so that they don't see you at night. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. So that's a cool part about having old people around, is the awesome stories. Maybe we should have an old people story channel. That'd be cool. Or would that just be totally DOA? No pun intended.
No, honestly, man, whatever we do, we should do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear
Doesn't
you.
matter.
I hear you.
I think it could be really cool, kind of chronologizing. I used to, when I used to work at the old cigarette store I used to work at, we sold cigarettes. Most of the people in the store would have to wait a while for the cigarettes to finish getting made. And I would just talk to them. Most of them were older people on fixed income, so they came to us. We were cheap. And they would just tell me their life story. I would ask them, just generally speaking, how'd you get here? One woman was really interesting. She had an accent, so I'd always ask people with accents, like, how'd you end up, you know, in the Los Angeles area? Because everyone comes to Los Angeles for some reason.
Yeah.
She was a UN translator. She speaks like 7 languages, so she would go with the UN to various languages. And I was like, oh, never would have thought about that. Just some random old lady buying cigarettes at a store in the middle of nowhere. Not middle of nowhere, but just some small little area in Los Angeles County. And she's like, oh yeah, I worked for the UN. I used to work in where are they based? Is Switzerland or wherever they're based? I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah.
Dude, apparently these cruises are super cheap right now.
No, yeah, dude. I too want to be in a giant floating prison right now. That sounds awesome. I can't wait till countries.
Well, they got to keep feeding you.
I can't wait till the countries deny me entry, dude. There's nightmare stories of cruises when just like, what was that cruise where they had like engine problems and they got stuck floating out in the water for like weeks, and it was like just like a nightmare area. Like, no, thank you, man. I've done cruises before. They're a lot of fun. I would love to go on one when all is well. I do not want to be left floating off of the coast of some foreign country because no one will accept us. And then the Americans have to fly me back. And I
Or it could be like Elizabeth Shue in the very end scene of The Saint, another great late 90s movie, might have been early 2000s, where she's like, I'm an American, open the gates. She's running to the embassy as like the mafioso's chasing her, and then finally like tears off her jacket, and then she makes it, and then boom, you know, she's safe. It could be like that, Cody. You could be like swimming to the shore, like, I'm an American.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. No, but Barbara Ovale, I apologize. I know I pronounced it wrong. I always do. Said, bought my ticket to Guatemala for $300. No cases there so far. Sounds like all I have to do is drink bleach. But no, that is very fascinating to highlight. Like, while there is countries like Italy where the entire country's under basically a lockdown, people patrolling the streets with guns, making sure you don't leave your house, there also is large parts of the world, as far as I know, for the most part, Central Southern America hasn't been hit very hard. It's worth noting, like, for example,
That's true.
I don't remember if it's like, but there was a Southeast Asian country. I forgot exactly which one. Very close proximity, very high travel to China. They basically didn't really experience much issues. So I think that's part of the reason why people freak out so much. It's like some parts of the world, it's not an issue. Other parts of the world, it's like, oh my God, our hospitals are at 1,000% capacity. What's going on? It's really weird, but it's a really interesting point. But hey, especially if the tickets are cheap to countries that don't have issues, go there. Yeah. I remember like, oh my God, when they were still having flights to Italy before all the stuff went down a couple days ago, dude, a flight to Rome was like $40.
Wow.
Do you know why part of it though was? So
Because they knew they couldn't get a round trip?
No. There is, and I read a couple articles on this. People, like, journalists get stuff wrong, believe you me. However,
yeah, most of the time.
For a lot of these, you have to make arrangements with various. Basically, these airlines need deals with countries to use airspace.
Okay.
We were talking about this. I was talking with someone the other day, and it's one of those things where if everyone else is still flying, and you go, look, we're not going to fly this route anymore, and you give up your spot, you just might never get it back. So a lot of European, especially European lines, were just flying empty planes back and forth on schedule,
Really?
so they didn't lose their clearance, their allowance to do this. Because if they go and say, "Hey guys, don't expect any planes from us flying these areas at this time. We're grounding planes," they knew just someone else would. And so in order to kind of hold their spot, these airlines kept doing it. I think it was specifically like a U.S. to Europe. I'll see if I pull up a specific. I read a couple articles on this though, and that sounds dumb enough to be true. Where everyone's like, but dude, if we stop flying and they don't cancel things, even though it's like, dude, how much money you lose on an empty flight to Italy and back, right? Like, God, LA to Italy and back empty, that's a killer, dude. But that was going on. That was
have you heard of any cruise ships being denied port? I mean, obviously
the one in California
was,
that was left off. It was left right.
But no, we're talking that. But that one had confirmed cases on board.
But I don't think it was denied. They were denied. They couldn't disembark, but they were able to dock in the.
They were able to dock and ultimately
they weren't left out in the ocean. They were like, no, you get out of our border, out of our waters. You go wait out there in the ocean.
So Crystal says cruises are being denied entry into ports even though no one is sick on board. She's got a friend on a cruise right now that's been refused. That sucks, man.
Well, especially
not in Guatemala though. Just head down to Guatemala.
What I don't know
and see the ruins. I would love that.
I don't know why they couldn't have some kind of quarantine clean testing area that they set up and just test people and let them off that are clean. I don't know why it's so hard to do. I guess it takes days to test, that's why, but still something, right? There's got to be something besides just let them rot in the boat. Because seriously, it's like these people, like most countries are like, maybe they'll go away. Like, what do they do with these ships when they show up, man? It's crazy. They're not just going to go away. What are you going to do with these people? Thankfully, like I said, I did like seeing how the American government's like, we're going to get our people home one way or the other.
Yeah, I love that, baby.
But then when the boat shows up at our shores, we're like,
dang it. Not in my backyard. Not in my backyard.
Maybe we shouldn't let them off.
So,
hey,
Marianne H.
I'm sorry.
Marianne H. says, cruise sounds like a dystopian nightmare right now. Which
can be, yeah.
I think there needs to be a movie written about this. There will be a low-budget thriller horror made about a cruise ship with an epidemic breakout within the near future, I guarantee you. And Anya Arim is getting real specific and scientific with us. Welcome back, Anya. She changed her cool little avatar. Said, let's be specific here. He's referring to sodium hypochlorite. It can be used for point-of-use disinfection of drinking water. Yes, very much so. Just one drop. Just 1 or 2 drops per gallon. That's all you need. And then let it off gas so it doesn't go after the bacteria in your stomach. But anyway, let me see. Lori Stalter says our governor just requested all non-essential services and stores to close in an entire county that has almost all of our positive cases.
Is that in Washington?
Interesting.
Well, what state is that in? Or I guess what country if it's not in America? I don't think if I had to guess it'd be Washington. Yeah, that's... Oh, great question here. Jason's awake. Where can I go to get tested for COVID-19? Long answer, nowhere. Short answer is nowhere. Long answer, I think the best thing I've seen, if you were to call CDC, I think CDC is just going to tell you to go to an emergency room and basically make a scene and demand one. and then maybe you'll get one. That seems to be the. I mean, don't quote me on that. Maybe it's better, but I've just read 3 or 4 people's personal experiences.
Problem Solver Politics did not advocate making a scene.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I've read 3 other people's personal experiences, and it seems like, yeah, they just got the runaround until they were told to show up at the ER, basically demand the test. And
So
that's how they ended up getting tested in America. It's really stupid. I remember reading a story of one woman, I think it was in Seattle, who like literally kept calling him and saying like, I have known contact with somebody who has coronavirus. Can you please test me? And they were just like, well, go here, call them, and they no one would test her. I think the truth was, everyone didn't want to tell her, oh no, we can't do that. Like, I honestly don't even know where to tell you to go. Like, I think when you get the runaround, it's one of 2 things. I ain't got time for this, or I literally have nothing to tell this person, right? In my opinion, that's the runaround comes from shove off, don't care, or yikes, yeah, that's a really good question. Let me redirect your call real quick, and then you get to somebody else. Hey, I need to get tested. I think I have their. Oh, that's a very good question. Let me see where I should direct you, and then that just keeps happening, and it's like nobody wants to give you a straight answer. So as far as I know, I think there's a place in Washington that is doing the drive-through testing they had done in Korea. In Korea, 1,000 people a day. You'd basically just drive into like a garage. They would, and you'd stay in your car. They'd grab the stuff they need to grab, and you would just leave. And then you'd know in a couple days. And that South Korea actually very greatly credited the ability to test so quickly and with such minimal contact. Like the nice thing about these drive-through testing areas is that no, you're not touching all the door handles. You're not touching the bed. You're not touching the chairs. You're literally just in your car when they test you. So if you are sick, they can get you back or just say, hey, stay home, self-quarantine. It was a really effective way. As far as I know, it doesn't work like that very well in America. We're really underprepared for this the testing phase, which seems to be, for what's worked for countries so far, early testing, being able to tell people immediately, yes, you have it, let's get you quarantined, or just let's get you put away or set up somewhere, has been really important, and that's been a struggle. It's one of the main struggles we're seeing, and it's really concerning when I'm hearing people on their accounts, but I mean, maybe they're lying, that are like pleading to be tested, and they're just getting ran around in circles because it's like, what? You can't test this person? I do think, like most things, when the government screws up, what generally tends to happen is they screw up, it's really bad, and then they burn money to dig themselves out of the public image hole and do things that financially aren't tenable. We're probably going to see that, and I think we are seeing it. All of a sudden, Trump, to save his image, will be like, everybody is 5 guaranteed free corona tests per individual. You know what I mean? Like, they'll go overboard to compensate. But it's not going to make up for the people who probably died because the testing wasn't correct originally. That's you can't compensate for that. You can't atone for that. You can just try to do more good on the other side. It's really a messy situation, man.
So what I'm really curious about is I've had 4 friends now that have had coronavirus, and they're all fine. I'm curious, is there anybody in the chat that has had coronavirus? Or has been diagnosed with one, or has had a scare that had to go and check it out, see what happened. I'm really curious to see if any of our fans, any of our viewers have actually had this experience. Let me see. Thucook, I believe it was, or Thucook, sent us an email.
She told us
with the pronunciation of her name, and I don't want to mess it up. But I believe it's Thucook Nguyen. Says, we need to follow South Korea's lead. They've been the most efficient and transparent throughout this whole outbreak. I really like the drive-through testing idea. That does sound cool. Cody, are you more familiar with that? I'm less familiar with the drive-through testing.
No, I'm not familiar with it at all. I didn't just spend 5 minutes talking about it.
Well, no, I'm
messing with you.
Okay.
No, yes, I am. And like I said, it's something people mentioned in chat that in Seattle they started it. I guess someone said Stanford as well. They're starting to move. It's really effective, and it really does. It helps a lot of ways. It minimizes the contact very greatly. Anyway, we have a $2 super chat from Tai saying, "Isn't Mitch McConnell stopping helpful legislation? Don't know. Perhaps. Probably. I believe that I have been very disappointed seeing in general, just from all politicians, weird political bickering and games being played when it's like, maybe you shouldn't be playing games right here. You should just be taking this serious and not messing around with us. Well,
it's okay. So it's not okay. So like, I'm not here to defend Mitch McConnell. You know what I'm saying? But I do know generally he's been vocal about not being a participant or somebody who's caught up in what he calls the do something syndrome. And he's on the record as having called the House bill to respond to the coronavirus as a, quote, ideological wish list. So I would be curious to see what he thought was indeed the actual wish list that the crafters of the bill were actually shooting for, and what his problems with it were, so on and so forth. But it's definitely something that is going to have to get figured out precipitously, because the president can only do so much. And I really like that this is also exposing how this is partly the president's issue. He's the head of the armed forces and he can do executive orders. But at the end of the day, the true battleground and the true generals in this are going to be our congressmen. It's going to be the House of Representatives that has to craft and pass a bill that ends up getting sent for ratification in the Senate and approved in the Senate so it can become law. And there have been times and precedents in U.S. history when we were less divided, where we really did come together to craft something beautiful and helpful in order to address a very specific problem. There's been floods that we've been able to get congressional acts passed for. There was, even just like we mentioned earlier, the St. Francis Dam disaster in the early 20s. There was actual official U.S. legislation that was passed in response to that dam disaster. So it's really up to each country now. It's really up to their legislatures, and each country is really getting put to the test to how well they can put partisan bickering aside to get a truly bipartisan issue taken care of, so we can go back to squabbling later. Does that make sense, Cody?
No, yeah, and it's just
there's an article on the Hill on
you get
this.
locked
I'll
into
send you a
politics
link.
mode, and you politic when you shouldn't. I do think that happens. I want to get to super chat from Ryukachu, $10, said it's worth noting that over-testing in South Korea did confirm that there was a huge number of mild cases which are indistinguishable from a cold. That's probably the most dangerous part. It's invisible. I do want to get to that because from what I've been reading, and again, I read so much about the stuff, trying to stay away from the crazy fear-mongering nonsense, the I hope you have all your guns and ammo. It's like, yeah, dude. So do I, when the police state has tanks on corners. And it's not like how are you going to revolt against the state with a gun? It's more like they're just like, dude, we're going to go martial law long before your wasteland rifle is going to be happy. That's just the opinion I have. Our military is too big and we have too many people sitting around with nothing to do, and that'll be a good way to use them. But what I do think is going to happen, and I think what's been happening a lot, is you see a lot of people get sick, don't even know it. And it spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads. And then it's the analogy I used before. Suddenly 9,000 people have broken legs. And you go to hospitals, and what was for the first people coming in, flu-like symptoms, minor respiratory issues. Okay, we got them out of here, no problem. Suddenly when it's flu-like symptoms, minor to major respiratory issues times 1,000, 100, just more and more and more and more and more and more. It overwhelms, and it's like it's been spreading because there's so many people who don't even... And there is some people, it's terrifying. Like there's people that it's like, they're sick, and it's like they literally were like, yeah, I mean, I guess I had a headache the last couple of days and my nose was a little congested. Like, yeah, coronavirus. Like, wow, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have believed you. There's a lot of people like that, right? And it is scary that there's a disease that could, for some people, be fatal, but for a non-zero number, a large percentage of people, actually, it could be, I literally couldn't have told you I had it. And that's, I think, why we're seeing it's one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of societal disruption, social disruption, canceling school, canceling concerts, canceling events. It's the spread they want to contain. It's not oh no, someone has it. Like, remember when it was, what was it? There's the fear that tuberculosis, I don't know, it's probably a decade ago. There was a guy who had tuberculosis on a plane. Do you remember this? Because tuberculosis, tuberculosis isn't, from what I know.
It was big in the 1800s.
I'm not a genius on it. It's far more fatal from what I know than what we're seeing with this.
It used to be called the Noble Death of the Poets.
And what you would see is, like, if anyone, it was like massive. With coronavirus, it's more, they don't seem to want uncontrolled spread. Like, just millions of people sick without knowing it, walking around giving it to people. Because eventually, 1% to 2% is a low number, but it isn't when you're talking about 1% to 2%. You know what? Tell you what, give me 1% to 2% of 5 million. I'll take it. Whatever that is in money, put it in my bank account today. I have a feeling it's a pretty big number because it's scary when you think about it in that sense. So that seems to be what I've been seeing here a lot. They're trying to stop people coming together because you could have 55 healthy people in a room, all with people all who seem healthy with coronavirus, and they find the one person who can't. You know what I mean? So that's That's been the issue. It's one of the reasons why they seem to want to limit people getting. It's one of the reasons why too I don't see the massive societal collapse kind of craziness. But anyways, I want to go on to Spencer for Hire, $2 super chat. Thanks guys for the dedication on these streams. Thank you very much, man. And then I'm going to pronounce it wrong again. Can you get this one?
Tukuk Nguyen. I believe it was Tukuk Nguyen.
You got it right the first time, so whoever said the first time.
Tukuk Nguyen. She says, super chat for pronouncing my name correctly. Oh, well, thank you, Tukuk. LOL, but seriously, who's buying all the toilet paper? Isn't that a strange phenomenon? Yeah, it is.
I do think
it's kind of weird.
I think it's in part there's people who look at it as like it's a thing to do. It's an exciting, like there's people that are like, I look at some people in those videos and it looks like people are like, God, what am I gonna do? It's like Wednesday today. Oh, I can wake up early and run down to the store to get my toilet paper. Because as I was saying before, it's like as long as the water's running in your house, yeah, you know what I mean. Like things are okay. You can probably get by with rationing toilet paper. It's when other stuff happens, people need to prepare for. Or they won't. No one will. No big deal. If you really want to be prepared, get one of those things so you could turn your bathtub into a water storage tank if you definitely need to. Like having toilet paper. Here's another funny thing too. It's like I'll know for a fact once I can't order things off Amazon anymore, I'll start getting worried. I'm like, whoa, okay, what's going on? They really can't get the trucks here anymore. Because a National Guard protecting those Amazon trucks. People won't even notice anything. Gamers like us, man. They'll just be like, hey man, I was playing. I don't know. I forgot what it's called. I forgot what the new Call of Duty mode's called. I was playing Plunder, man. I didn't even see what happened. But seriously, I think as long as they're able to get the commodities the people demand, now the issue is going to be people losing jobs because of like service industries, entertainment industry, tourism, hospitality. That the government needs to have a plan for, because there's no like I'm not gonna expect the government to find a way to like you're going to need to like close down nightclubs and stuff. I don't see a world where nightclubs don't have to be at least temporarily reined in, right? They'll probably close down for a few months. The government can't just say, well, that sucks. Too bad. I guess no money's made off nightclubs. Somebody pointed out a good point. They recently shut down Broadway. How many people you think in like the general vicinity of Broadway get a couple drinks and some food before and after a show?
I know.
Attendees, staff, and talent alike.
This is crazier because it's kind of like a depression that hit all at once.
But here's the other thing, too. It's like it's a depression that hit all at once without
warning.
But like the catalyst isn't officially. It wasn't like, oh my God, everyone tried to sell out and the market collapsed. And it's been a speculative fear-based collapse. You know what I mean? It could be bad. It could be bad. It could be bad. The bad hasn't actually happened yet. It's been pure speculation and fear. It's been driving it.
We got an interesting comment here from Nick Olotelo Investing. He says, I work at Amazon. My location SAT2 is number 1 in NA. What's NA mean?
North America.
North America. Okay. And we have 70% attendance. The rest of North America has 30 to 40%.
Wow.
So interesting.
That is bad to see the scaling back. Amazon. You know the other thing too. If Bezos can find a way, maybe Bezos is bringing out. Like anyone played a Fallout New Vegas. Like Bezos has a secret underground robot army that he's gonna rise up.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Bezos, if he can find a way to keep those Amazon trucks going, is going to be He thought he was rich now. If everybody's quarantined for months and those Amazon trucks keep rolling, he will be. I mean, in a way, he will be controlling the supply lines to the citizens single-handedly. So it'd be almost like frightening the power. But like if Jeffy Boy plays his cards right, man, he might find himself sitting in a place very few people have been in, where he's basically the head of supply for most households, which is crazy. Like a direct, I don't know. But again, it would require a lot of stuff. It's probably not feasible. What's probably more likely is he would fold in with other, like most shipping people will come together, because it's probably way more important for that Bezos infrastructure to go to getting semi-trucks to larger distribution. But here's the thing too. It's tough to have like a big, large distribution center if everyone's getting sick. You don't want everyone going. You probably would rather have somebody bring the thing to a household so the household can disinfect the thing and then use it. That way, everyone.
But not every household that even has. Well, actually, yeah.
Well,
you could
have you could have distribution centers as well. You could, but I'm just saying, like, it would be, I think, functionally similar to the idea of the drive-through, where you don't have as many people touching things. Like, you just drive in, they test you, you leave. It isn't like you have to open doors, sit on chairs, sign paperwork, touch walls. None of that's there. So I don't know. Interesting.
When you mention nightclubs, what is interesting is I do recall, I believe during the H1N1 scare, there were nightclubs that were shut down, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously during Spanish flu, they closed like vaudeville theaters and all that other stuff back then. We're getting some interesting comments here in the chat. Yang 2020 Futurist Crew says, call your reps to demand UBI. Yeah, that's true, but we need a tax base in order to be able to fund UBI. So the economic impact of everybody not going out and not engaging in commerce would restrict the taxes from which we would be able to charge UBI. So yes, a lot of it does come from robots and a lot of it does come from Amazon. So a boost in Amazon sales would be good for funding a universal basic income, but the gain in the Amazon business wouldn't compensate for the loss of other value-added taxes that would be levied on other products. So the ability of using this as a way to demand universal basic income, I don't really see as a viable catalyst for the demand of universal basic income. I think it's definitely a good example of how universal basic income could help de-stress a population in order to handle a situation and also actually help a population prepare for a situation like this. Cody.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. People are saying, they're like, hey, is there anything, we're going to talk about the fun stuff. I'm sorry, look, I got to admit, it sucks. It's like all day I've been trying to find good, happy, better news to talk about. This morning, I had a big slap in the face. Normally, when I'm fed up with politics, like without even thinking about it, I just go to ESPN.com. I don't even like ESPN, but it's like, here's sports news. I'll read sports news, right?
Okay.
I went to ESPN today, and I'm not even kidding you guys. The first 15 articles on the website are all coronavirus articles. I get it. The only news in sports is everything's canceled, but it sucks, man.
Well, if I'm not mistaken,
this is a pretty good time for video games. I'll say that. We have some good video game stuff coming out. Now, unfortunately, this is supposed to be a better time for video games, but Cyberpunk 2077, a game that allegedly is going to be released, was pushed back from what was going to be a fall 2020 release date to apparently an August 2020. It was going to be spring 2020. Now it's going to be fall 2020.
Hey, so Cody, there is good news here, though. And then I love this because right when I Googled this, I said the good news is that from what I understand, Farr's Law has already reached its climax. By virtue of the fact that China is now shutting down its emergency hospitals, it shows that we've already reached the tip of Farr's Law. And for those of you guys that aren't familiar with Farr's Law, you actually should go to Google right now and just check it out. Farr's Law of epidemics is basically states that epidemics start exponentially, therefore they will end exponentially. And just like the contagion is a bell curve, okay, so is the cure or the immunity that happens afterwards. And right when you just Google Farr's Law of Epidemics in Google, it's with 2 R's, by the way. It's FARR''S. This is what it says, Cody. Listen to this. Subsequent countries will follow this same pattern in what's called Farr's Law. This is their summary that's taken out of the article, The Bell Curve of Pandemics. First formulated in 1840 and ignored in every epidemic hysteria since, the law states that epidemics tend to rise and fall in a roughly symmetrical pattern or bell-shaped curve. Okay? So this is the good news. If people want the good news is Farr's Law and this bell curve of contagion and then conquering immunity, I don't know what you want to call it, but everybody contracting and then everybody getting over, okay, shows that things happen in this bell curve. And the tip of that bell curve in China for their population seemed to have been about 2 weeks ago. So much so that now they've had so much success diagnosing and getting rid of it, they're actually on the bottom side of that bell curve. The people that have flared out and will introduce it into their potential populations and so on and so forth, yes, there might be other countries and other smaller municipalities that are at the beginning of this. But the point is that in many places, we're actually on the downside and on the home stretch of this thing already, even though this is kind of the first day of hysteria in America. So I love how literally Google says first formulated in 1840 and ignored in every epidemic hysteria since. The law states epidemics tend to rise and fall in roughly symmetrical patterns. So yeah, that's the good news. So whoever asked for the good news in the super chat is
Well, no, I mean, again, I from what I've seen, it's just there's unknown, which seems to be concerning people about the virus itself. Which is for right now the short term, adversity it looks like we're gonna have. I know it's funny to say adversity. It's like they're postponing the baseball season, but just events being canceled, people who are relying on those events. Events, I definitely think that the government can't just ignore and say, well, South by Southwest and Coachella got canceled. That's not going to have any impact on local economies. It is. So hopefully they have some plan, but I don't know what's going on. It's crazy stuff, guys. But it's still early, and again, it's the unknown which has been freaking people out the whole time. The unknown's always worse than the known. Actually, not always, but it tends to be. The unknown tends to be.
We got 2 more minutes left. If you guys got any super chats in your system, make sure that you get them out of your system right now. If you got any more translations you want of Spanish Bane, then by all means hit us up right now. Any last final comments, let us know. I really love this. This is pretty funny. Some of these comments are absolutely hilarious. Borden brings up a good point. Contagion and containment. That was the word I was looking for. Was containment. So thank you very much, Borden. And Bit9K says Bit9K's law, you either get it or you don't, 50-50 chance. It's probably far less than 50-50 on this one at least. But yeah, that's a very good law. I get it. And then Azurall says H1N1 data was linear. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
No, we lied big time during H1N1.
I know there was disinformation, but I'm saying the way it spread and the way it was contained could not have been linear. That just makes absolutely no sense. Maybe reporting was bad of some sort or another, but that's a problem with reporting, not necessarily with the actual real data that should have been reported behind it. But anyway, yeah. So I'd like to give a little reminder really fast before we do finish the last couple of questions that we'll let come in here. First off, if you haven't had a chance yet to join the channel, make sure you join. It's that little blue button. If you guys aren't sure about it, it's that blue button that says join. It's cheap. It's only $5 to join the channel. And it's a really cool way to keep us corporate sponsor free. Also, if you could like this video before you guys leave the chat today, getting over 100 likes really helps us. It helps keep the channel going, so on and so forth. Helps us out with all the Google algorithms and everything like that. So please make sure you guys can smash that like button. That'd be super helpful. And if you don't already, make sure that you follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. We're probably just as active, if not more active on Twitter, posting all kinds of cool memes and videos and photos and clips and so on and so forth. On our Twitter page. And we also love interacting with people, getting a lot of leads there on topics to talk about and so on and so forth. So make sure you check us out on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. Oh, we got another super chat, Cody. We've been watching in pissed silence about the whole situation. This situation has messed with my goodbye to my father. Oh, I hope he's not referencing the passing of a loved one or the inability to go see them. Captain Del Diggs, if that is the case, my heart goes out to you. And yes, that is indeed a tragic situation. Hopefully mitigated by maybe technology, FaceTime or something like that. I know that's a distant second. But yeah, I think you and Cody the Oracle share a very similar attitude towards this whole event right now. And Stephen Yeats says we have a company working on testing kits in Lodi, California. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of actually all industries here in California, for heaven's sakes. It's the 5th largest economy in the world, 7th largest military. But there is a lot of research and development, medical science here, especially in Southern California. Lodi, I know, is more central or northern, but that's good to hear. And Joshua Doring gives us the ultimate of all reminders, saying, remember, kids, Wall Street is more important than we are. It feels like it's gotten more important in my lifetime, but I still think there's part of that American ethos where we like each other more than I think we're better than other cultures in that regard. So I don't quite completely buy into that idea, but I know what you're talking about. And Jaywa asks, you hear about AOC supporting UBI? Cody, did you hear about AOC supporting UBI? Asks Jaywa.
I don't know if I was like UBI necessarily, as much as I think it was what I was kind of talking before, the idea of like economic stimulus for people during this. Because I do think UBIs, the temporary economic stimulus from the government to people is good, but UBI is something separate. It would be a universal basic income for people, regardless of if there's a global pandemic or not, right?
Yeah.
Something that's a stimulus hinged on global pandemic, I view be a little bit different. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's what she was more talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, Emperor Xander makes a final comment. The California sucks. Texas is better in every way but weather. Economically, there's probably a strong argument for that. But California, man, we could talk about that for days. So anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been an awesome chat. This has been an awesome live stream. We absolutely love coming here to hang out with you guys. Thanks for the super chats. We're going to hang out for another couple of minutes, answer a couple of questions in the chat, let everybody continue and wrap up what they're doing in the chat as well. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Twitter.
Before we wrap it up, so I stand corrected. I guess AOC had, maybe it was I had seen a different quote. So there's quote for explicitly endorsing complete UBI separate.
Might be video time.
Separate of any kind of hinge on anything, just UBI in general. That's really cool. I'll look at that. It sounds like her. She's a very good politician. She like I said, she has one way of making decisions. She licks her finger and sticks it in the air.
Yeah.
Which way the wind blowing today? But interesting. Something to look at.
All right. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. This is Problem Solver Politics. We will see you guys in the next live stream.